This is Rick Kaselj from exercisesforinjuries.com. Today I have another interview for you, and it's with Erin, and I'll get Erin to introduce herself, and then we'll go into the questions that I have for her.
Hi everybody, I'm Erin. I am the creator of Toned in 10 at tonedin10fitness.com, which is a short burst workout, and I'm really excited to talk about it today with Rick.
Awesome. And Erin, we've known each other for a while, and maybe you can kind of share your story, your journey when it comes to, Toned in 10, and a lot of us, what we talk about, in the group or in the fitness group that we're part of, like the things, or how did you kind of find out those things to kind of keep you looking youthful?
Probably my journey to Toned in 10 was twofold. It was my own personal journey, but also I've been a physical therapist for 18 years, so I've seen a lot of other people struggle with finding time to work out, hurting, painful joints, everything, you name it, all the things that keep us from exercising. So with working with a lot of people that way, and then my own struggles with finding time, I knew there had to be a better way, so I just started researching. And a lot of the research out there was short burst workouts, like sprinters. If you see sprinters, they have these long, lean, beautiful muscles. Well, they do sprint work. And so I started really researching into that. And with my physiology background and PT background, it was kind of easy to figure out why. And so I created Toned in 10 out of that.
Awesome. And so what we're going to kind of focus in on is, on that aging side of things, but based upon your physical therapy background, based upon your own personal experience, what you've experienced with your clients, and the feedback that you've gotten in Toned in 10 customers, like what are 3 daily mistakes that age you faster?
One of the biggest things that I've seen the last 18 years as a PT is people's joints are just painful all the time. They come in, I see people with hip replacements, knee replacements, and so many of them probably could have been prevented if they had not been told the lie that long cardio is the way to go. Because that's what we've been told to do, How did we know better?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my mission, is just to get the message out there that you don't have to do long cardio, because long cardio can be very damaging to your joints, because long cardio, when you do it for times longer than about 30 minutes, really causes what we call oxidative damage in your body, which basically is just free radical damage that attacks certain organs of your body, your joints, your skin, and other organs too. So it's a real age accelerator. So I really condone and recommend intense exercise less than 30 minutes. And Toned in 10, obviously, is just 10 minutes, which you can still get amazing results with 10 minutes. So that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make, and probably the biggest one. The other thing that I see is when you're doing the other long, boring cardio, or you might be doing other training like a marathon, which is ultimately the longest cardio you can do, you're going to not get the benefits that you can get with short burst workouts under those 30 minutes, because when you do those short burst workouts, your body creates a huge increase in what's called human growth hormone, and it actually can increase by up to like 450%, and it only can take 10 minutes. And so that youth hormone, if that's delivered to your body, you're just going to look more youthful. It's going to promote more youthful skin and much leaner muscles. So who doesn't want that?
Yeah. So kind of going back, so like the first one ended up being the long sustained cardio. And I know looking back, like all the research, when they kind of started doing research when it came to runners, they kind of focused in on the cardiovascular benefits when it came to doing running for a long period of time. And that's what they ended up encouraging people to do, because they based all this research on runners. But all this long distance stuff, what ends up happening is it overworks the joints, which you don't want to do. And also people that are probably not biomechanically gifted or have gifted bodies in running end up doing these long sustained things, and it just ends up putting more stress and strain on the body. For example, they have poor shoes and poor foot structure, they end up being overweight, that ends up putting unnecessary stress on their knees and hips. So they might think they're doing something beneficial by doing this running or long sustained cardio, but actually they end up potentially damaging their joints. And what do you say about that?
Well, you probably know this from your background, is every time when you're running, whether it's on the treadmill or outside, every time your foot hits the ground or the treadmill, you're putting 3 times your body weight on your joints. So if you're a 150-pound person, each time your foot hits the floor, you're putting 450 pounds of pressure through your legs, through your knees, through your hips, through your back. Mm-hmm. So we wonder why we're all in pain, right? When we've been doing all that damage to our joints. So especially for prolonged times. Now for short burst workouts, it's okay to do a sprint and run because it's not going to be that long chronic inflammation that's occurring.
Yeah, I mean, definitely want to end up doing some cardio, but I don't. A lot of people think that they need to do an hour of cardio and then start the rest of their strengthening side of things. I know, I went through a running background and did all this running stuff and marathon, Ironman stuff, and my joints feel better now, and it's probably because I do end up doing more short, intense workouts, and then I really work on strengthening all those muscles around the joints through full ranges of motion, and having that strength has kind of decreased the stress on my joints.
Absolutely. The stronger your joints are, the better. And a lot of people get confused with chronic inflammation and acute inflammation. When you do short burst workouts, you're producing an acute inflammation, but it only lasts for a short period of time, which is very beneficial for your body. But if you go into that, like we talked about before, past that 30-minute mark where you're doing the same thing over and over with your body starts to produce chronic inflammation, and that's where it gets dangerous. So there's a difference there.
Yeah, good point. And then the second thing was the incorrect training. You kind of highlighted a little bit. So looking at, doing something where it's like long in duration compared to something intense. What were the things that you kind of noticed? You were talking about the release of youthful hormones if you add more intensity compared to something at a low intensity for a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing that low intensity for a long period of time, again, you're going to be producing that chronic inflammation, which will also increase what we call a hormone that you don't want. Human growth hormone you want, that lovely youth hormone. You don't want to increase cortisol for those extended periods of time, which happens with that long cardio, because that's going to increase stress in your body, going to increase excess inflammation and that chronic inflammation we were talking about. So there's just really no need. We don't have time for the long exercises anyway. I mean, some people might, but again, a lot of times it might be boring for someone if they're doing the same thing for too long. So it's really unneeded time for you to spend past 30 minutes of doing an exercise that is just going to end up being probably more harmful to your body than helpful.
Good point. And then what would number 3 be of the 3 daily mistakes that age you faster?
Oh, goodness. So I think one of the biggest ones, along with the exercise we talked about, is your nutrition. So my biggest thing is you're not going to get the results that you want in terms of weight loss or muscle tone or that leanness you're kind of probably after, unless you kind of hone in on what you're taking into your body nutrition wise. So what I really like to recommend is trying to lower your sugar. Now, I'm not saying like you can't live anymore and you can't have any more sugar, but what my main philosophy is, and I kind of have an easy way to remember it, is just try to remember the 4 P's, the letter P. You want to try to bring, at each meal, you want to try to have some sort of protein, which is your first P, and then some sort of produce, which is your second P. So fruits or vegetables. Vegetables are even better, but there are some really great lower sugar fruits like berries and some apples and things like that work really well. And then the other 2 P's stand for try to avoid processed and packaged food, because those also affect your hormones. So we're talking a lot about hormones here, and hormones play such a huge role in weight loss and the way you feel and the way you look. So if you can remember those 4 P's and just try to remember that every time you're putting food in your mouth, it's an easy way to remember. If you do that, you're going to be really far ahead of most people. The other 2 things I like to recommend are also the healthy fats, like avocados, olive oil, avocado oil, those types of things. And another thing I'm a big proponent of, and I have every day, is just a little bit of dark chocolate. It has amazing antioxidants, and then you don't feel like you're depriving yourself. You want to be able to have your nutrition be something you can stick with. And if you're feeling hungry or you're feeling deprived or you're like, this is boring, you've got to have those little indulgences. So I'm a big proponent of some dark chocolate every day.
Okay, good. And it's great. It's great to hear about the protein side of things, because I've interviewed Dawn and Maureen, and both of them really highlighted that importance of the protein side of things, which is nice, because I think a lot of people out there think that they really should, cut out the fats and minimize the protein and really just focus on the carbs and focus on carbohydrate related stuff. And why is it that you think people should focus more on the protein side, and healthy fats, and probably minimize the carbs?
For me, and there's a lot of research out there about that, but once I changed my eating habits to eating more protein and eating those healthy fats, I used to be, the low fat guru and never ate any fat and tried to stay away from meat. And I felt awful all the time. I was exhausted. So once I changed that and started getting more protein, I started to feel much more satisfied after I ate, and I wasn't hungry all the time. And kind of an amazing thing happens is if you just kind of know your portion control sizes and you eat your meat and you eat the produce, vegetables or fruit, you're just very satisfied after, especially if you're putting those healthy fats in it. The healthy fats are so much more satiating than like a piece of bread. It's amazing. You'll feel good, and it's actually very good for your skin too. Yeah. Having those healthy fats in your diet.
Yeah, and I find with the bread, if I have one piece, then I want to eat the whole darn loaf.
Me too. I love
that. So that's kind of like carbs lead to craving more carbs, even though I like a really good bread, a good fresh bread. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's good, and I will indulge once in a while. And that, like we talked about with the dark chocolate, it's not like you can never ever have it. It's just like you don't want to make it a daily habit, which many of us have for many years. So if you want to have a piece or two of bread once a week, go for it. So you're not depriving yourself. So as long as it's not a trigger food, and like you said, you're like, I'm going to eat the whole thing.
Yeah.